You're listening to Face of a Feminist with Laura Diaz and Marissa Clark.
Hey, y'all. I'm feeling comfortable now.
No kidding. Yeah, we're getting the hang of this thing.
Yes. I'm Laura Diaz.
And I'm Marissa Clark.
So I heard something that I need to talk to you about, Marissa.
Gosh, I feel like every time we sit down to podcast, there's some sort of intervention that's happening, and I don't like this format.
Well, the thing is that your life is a little more interesting than mine, so it's going to be like this until you get married and get boring like I did.
Interesting is a very subjective term,
okay,
but okay.
What I mean by interesting is so sad and pathetic sometimes.
What I mean is my life is, Laura said, my life is actually very steady. There's no drama. Nothing goes wrong. It's predictable. Your life, however, is a hot damn mess.
I mean, like, you know, you're naked. You got sage all over you. I mean, these things don't happen to me anymore. I've had my experiences. I close that box and I put a pin in that. I'm done.
Okay.
So back to you.
Back to me.
And the hot mess that you are. Marissa, you do not need a Roomba vacuum.
Okay.
Your apartment is 700 square feet. This is laziness at epic proportions, and I'm concerned, and I need you to not use a Roomba.
Okay, so for those who are wondering, I'm assuming how this is coming up is that we tend to podcast out of my very small kitchen, and Laura happened to notice that I had a Roomba, and I didn't realize when you were asking me about it, you were judging me. I thought that you wanted one because you were so impressed.
No, I was judging you. Now we know. Spoiler alert. And this is an embarrassment. Marissa, you have less carpet than anybody I've ever met. Like, your apartment is so small. What made you want to get a Roomba? Aren't those so expensive?
Yes, they are. However, I go shopping on Black Friday, so I got a fantastic deal on it.
And what is that deal?
Well, we don't need to discuss finance.
$0 and 0 cents.
Listen, I realize that Dave Ramsey would not be proud of my decision. However, I think this is something that Laura and I tend to disagree on vehemently because I like to simplify my life. I realize I'm a single woman. I realize I have no responsibilities other than myself, but I like to be able to simplify things so that I can focus my attention on things like catching up on my DVR and blogging.
Oh my God.
Listen, Laura, imagine this. Your kids are running around like maniacs. Mike has got Nash in one hand. You're trying to bathe Nora. You're getting them ready for bed. And then after you're all done with all of the chaos, rather than coming downstairs and vacuuming your home, you can just go to bed. In fact, I have it set up to where I can tell Alexa to run my vacuum. I say, Alexa, start Roomba. Boom, done. I can wake up and it goes back to its dock by itself. I don't have to do a thing. I can just go to bed. Why don't you need to sleep? We don't get any sleep as it is, Laura, and you're a mother. Why are you fighting technology? I don't understand.
Marissa, here's the thing. I'm not fighting technology.
Yes, you are.
I have 2 kids. I deserve a Roomba.
You do.
You don't deserve one.
Treat yourself, Laura.
You're slapping a girl like me in the face by being childless with a Roomba. That is so embarrassing for me because I look at you and I hate you. You don't get to come home and eat whatever you want without a little snot booger-filled finger coming in and saying, I want some of that too. You don't get to come home and just nap all day with no noise and then push your Roomba when you're ready to clean the house. It's not fair.
So what you're saying is that this entire rant is simply boiling down to jealousy.
Yes, I'm jealous, and you've taken the jealousy to a new level that I'm not comfortable with anymore because we still have to maintain a friendship.
Yeah, we do.
And when I think about you going home to no children, no husband, not even a big place that you have to keep up with. And then you just decide to get all cocky and get a Roomba connected to your mother bleeping Alexa. It is so in my face.
I think that you should seek help for these feelings that you have of jealousy, because they're really not healthy for you or your family.
Can you at least admit that maybe a Roomba connected to an Alexa, maybe
it's a little excessive,
is a bit much?
It's a little excessive.
Okay.
But I'm not changing anything.
Especially because you couldn't afford the Roomba in the first place.
Yeah, okay. So maybe I went into a little bit of debt to accomplish my really relaxed lifestyle, but I've never been happier.
Plus, the Alexa is supposed to be for like a convenience factor of like, ooh, I'm on the couch and upstairs I would really like to turn on the I don't know what you do with Alexas. I don't have one. But when you live in a 700 square foot apartment, you could use your toe to turn on the light from the couch.
Do you want to know what's even funnier about you complaining about this?
What?
I have 3 Alexas.
Marissa.
I have one in my bedroom.
Oh.
I have one in the living room to turn on my vacuum cleaner. And then I have one on my vanity to dim my vanity lights up and down. In my 700 square foot apartment.
Isn't a vanity something you sit at?
Yeah.
So why would you need to tell something to turn?
Because I don't want to lean over,
Marissa,
and dim the thing up and down. I just tell her, Alexa, dim the lights to 50%. And then I can gradually wake up in the morning. Wait, okay. Enough about me. I have to ask you something.
What?
Because I think that you equally need an intervention just as much as I do. For the simple reason that I think you are losing your edge. By that, I mean that I think your neighbor is maybe taken over your life. And if you would like to come live in my tiny house rather than your tiny house, you're more than welcome to, because clearly you're just going to let her come right in one day. Now, I don't know if you want to get people up to speed on what I'm referring to, but basically Laura has a neighbor she's deathly afraid of. And she's the only person that I've ever seen Laura cower to. And I think that you're losing your edge.
Okay, if by losing my edge you mean fearing for my life from a woman who has a teardrop tattoo on both eyes, mind you.
Okay, I didn't know it was both eyes.
Full gold mouth, which I'm not going to judge on that because some people enjoy that. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's an aesthetic thing they think looks nice. But I'm not used to it, and it did frighten me a little bit. Maybe it was the knives and gun tattoos on her shoulder. Maybe it was the fact that she actually threatened to kill another neighbor in front of me.
Okay, wait. We need to back up because I have so many questions.
Right.
Okay, how long has this woman been living in your vicinity?
So let's just say I've been here, easy math, 6 months. Okay. She was here first.
Okay. So
that was my welcoming committee to the neighborhood.
Now, she didn't raise any alarms whenever you were looking to purchase the house?
Well, we didn't see her then. Okay. We didn't see her until moving in day.
Welcome.
The ink was dry. And guess who was in my driveway as the moving truck pulled in?
The ink was dry on her teardrop tattoo, too.
And this is not to be funny. Her name is LaQuisha.
Okay.
And this is not a joke. This is her name.
Okay.
And she was like, hi, I'm LaQuisha, and I need to tell you about your neighbors. And she proceeded to go on a 20-minute rant about all of the, and I'm quoting here, whiteys in our neighborhood. But she said, you cool.
Even though you're white.
Right.
Okay.
So I was cool, and I was like, oh, thank God. Oh my God. My kids are 2 and 4 and they're running around the driveway.
Now, does she have children?
No, it's just her.
Right.
And she was smoking a Black and Mild, and my kids were coughing, and I was just
Mommy, why does the lady have so much smoke?
I was just like, all right, this is my across the street neighbor, and this is my new life. So I was very scared when she told me that she was going to kill another neighbor. So if that makes me lose an edge, Marissa?
I just think that maybe at some point you could have alerted some sort of authorities when she's presenting death threats to your neighborhood.
So you don't think that had been done before I arrived to the neighborhood? So after she left my driveway, I got approached by all the other people like, oh, saw you met LaQuisha. Oh, I'm sure she gave you an earful. And I was like, yes, actually, she told me that she threatened to kill you. He's like, yes. And I have called the police numerous times and they say it's a case of he said, she said. So unless I had a super secret spy recording device on me when she said it, how are we ever? And by the way, the police have come since that time maybe 10 times to her house. And so, yes, I'm afraid of this woman.
Well, I would like to know how we got from said woman approaching you in a driveway, discussing going on a murderous rampage,
right,
to her then coming up to your door. I cannot say this with a straight face. Laura, I just can't even barely get through this sentence without dying. Coming up to your door and demanding that you allow her to use your water.
I'm glad you asked. Okay, I can't even not laugh too because it's very embarrassing.
This is not your proudest moment.
So maybe I have lost my edge, if this is what we're going to call it. So call me a spoon. I have no sharp edges anymore because since that time of the lovely introduction, which was not filled with cookies and pies, I was like, okay, to Mike, we had a little powwow. We said we need to make sure we never get on her bad side. We have children after all, and clearly there's nothing that can be done.
Survival of the fittest.
Right, and we just signed on the house. We can't get out of this scenario. We might have, had we been able to.
Okay.
So here we are, and almost every other week or so, we would see her come out with her black and mild and like a plume of smoke coming out of her front door because clearly she smoked indoors. And she would just mosey on over and try and chat with us. Many times she was high, out of her mind, like out of her mind, pupils as big as, golf balls, and just going on completely rants that you wouldn't even think that a crazy person could say. So that's how high she was. And we would just go along with it until she would just go away. So we were very frightened until the day she came over and said that her water had been turned off because she didn't pay it, and it was $400. And if she could just use our hose to fill up a bucket that she actually already had in her hand.
Of course she
did. So
did.
it wasn't even like a real can I. It was more of a, this is what I'm going to do. You just go ahead and say yes or die. And that's how I felt.
Okay, Laura, that might be a little bit of exaggeration.
I mean, was it?
She didn't have a knife in the other hand, but I'm just, so I understand that it was not a request. It was actually just, I'm telling you what I'm going to do.
Yeah, she had the bucket in hand.
Right.
In fact, and so now looking back, I realized maybe I could have said, let me talk to my husband or something, but I wasn't trying to mess with that.
Okay, but
Oh, wait, one more thing. The landlord, she thought, quote, disrespected her over the phone because he doesn't even live in the country.
Right.
What a jerk, right? He's leaving us with this mess. And she said over the phone he disrespected her, so she took her car and rammed it through the garage door that was closed.
Her own garage door. Because that'll show him a lesson.
I'm not even sure that it was not a stolen car. Because I had never seen a car there before, but all of a sudden here's a car and it's through the garage door.
Borrowed car. Through her own garage door, which accomplishes, I'm not entirely sure yet what. But I'm at this point, I'm still going to give her the benefit of the doubt.
Wow, okay.
Because I believe that coming over and simply asking/telling someone that you're going to fill up a single bucket of water is sort of the equivalent of like me going to my neighbor and asking to borrow some sugar. I'm baking, I need a cup of sugar, right? She just needs one bucket of water. What would be wrong with that?
Right. So I gave her a bucket of water.
Okay.
Right. And then the next day she came back with multiple buckets. And in fact, I was so scared that she was a repeat offender at this point. Like, I was so scared that she was hanging out at my front door so much now that I actually gave her some of my buckets. This is all true.
And you wonder why I say you lost your edge, Laura.
I was like, You know
You're
what?
crippling.
Marissa, do I want her hanging out on my premises? Do I want my kids to mosey on out to use their sidewalk chalk, as they often do, and see her standing there filling up the water in buckets so she can shower? No, I did not want her hanging around my house because it's losing my street cred with the other neighbors.
Oh, you have no street cred.
Well, the other neighbors think I'm like on the up and up, so I didn't
Okay.
want them to think I'm in cahoots with her. It's a real political situation that I'm
on
in.
this little cul-de-sac
Trying
we
to
have
stay
here.
alive, also staying a part of the HOA.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. And so, yeah, I gave her some of my buckets, and she continued to get my water to shower, do dishes, flush her toilet, as she told me, all these things that
Okay.
she was using it for. And to the point where my water bill went up. That's how much water she was using.
And at what point did you sit there and reevaluate your life?
When I saw another deputy over there, just another Tuesday, and I thought, I hope she's dead. That's when I knew somewhere something had gone awry.
Oh, LaQuisha. I
didn't want her to be, but it was like there was
Right.
like a quick passing thought that, oh my gosh, maybe.
Where this would relieve my situation.
I just thought maybe she died.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why there are
the black and mild and the
I know
inhalation.
there's a lot of
and
danger. You know, drugs
Yeah.
are a dangerous thing. There's maybe not having water.
Dehydration is a real thing.
Maybe she stopped getting water from. I didn't know, and I thought maybe she's dead, and maybe it's all over. And that was not the case.
No.
But apparently.
So what's the status now? Is
So rumor
LaQuisha
has
with us
it-
still or on Earth?
I'm not sure if she's still on Earth. She may have passed. All I know is that at some point there was a massive police presence
Oh my God,
at the property.
no.
And I did not see anyone going in or out LaQuisha wise.
Uh-huh.
It was just like police in and out. And I haven't seen her since. So
no.
I don't know what happened to LaQuisha.
We're not Facebook friends with her. We can't text her.
No, I don't think she even knows what Facebook is. She
Okay.
actually told me during one of her many rants that she was incarcerated for most of her life. So I'm not sure
so
that she's like
the uprise of 2009
Right.
social media. Mark
Right.
Zuckerberg probably didn't get around to,
yeah.
to
So
that.
and she wasn't there all the time, so I'm not sure where she would go for weeks on end. But
Yeah.
she always came back,
Rest in peace, man. Rest in peace.
whichever way. She
Right,
left my neighborhood.
Like peace in wherever she is. Like hopefully she's still here with us, but not in
I will say,
said
gave
neighborhood.
me a new respect for life, I guess you
Well-
could say, when you fear it every day coming home.
I lost all respect for you. On the other hand.
You know what I wish?
Yeah.
I wish for everyone to have a LaQuisha at some point in their lives so that they can come back to me, send me a little DM one day and be like, girl, I feel ya.
So speaking of Facebook, well, since LaQuisha is not on Facebook, I was on Facebook, and I have a lot of questions about your social media activity because I came across a video, and I'll be honest, I haven't watched it yet because I needed to get these questions out of the way and prep myself. But I saw you in a video on social media at what appeared to be some dungeon is the best way that I can describe it. And
It's called a dungeon.
oh, literally, it's called a dungeon. Oh my God, I thought I was just like
No, it's called a dungeon.
a literal dungeon.
Uh-huh.
Can you describe what the hell you were doing?
So if anyone listened to the first introduction podcast we posted, I talked about how Face of a Feminist, the nonprofit side of Face of a Feminist, does interviews with different women from different walks of life.
Right. Different
I would have interviewed LaQuisha, to be honest with
faces
you.
of do you we think LaQuisha was a feminist?
You know, I don't know, but I never got to ask.
Okay.
Rest in peace. So this one woman is in an open marriage.
Okay.
And she frequents this dungeon called the Woodshed, which is a dungeon for BDSM with her husband.
Okay.
And so I wanted to interview her, being a woman and a mother, mind you, in an open marriage openly. So you know how like a gay person can be in
Like in the
can
closet.
be open.
Okay. Or out. Yeah.
or in the closet.
Or open. Yeah. Okay.
She is openly in an open marriage. So I said, let me interview, she's a feminist, and I said, let me interview you for my Face of a Feminist video series and tell me about what it's like being a woman, mother, and wife in this society that is so quick to judge.
Like I'm doing right now.
Right, exactly. And that's why you saw me in a dungeon where I conducted the interview with floggers, ball gags, paddles. Ooh, I learned all kinds of terms that I'm blanking on right now. But yeah, I touched them all. I kind of messed around with them.
I know messed around.
Like I would pick it up and like hit my hand to like see
did you
how
wash your hands afterwards? Because that doesn't seem sanitary.
It is, because in this particular dungeon there is absolutely no sex allowed. So the dungeon is just for either watching or playing, but no sex at all allowed.
I know that this might come as a shock to you, but I am very vanilla when it comes to sex.
No.
I know that your jaw is on the floor and you're like, no, not Marissa being basic. But I am.
Yeah.
And so whatever terms you just used right there, I know nothing about. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know much about your sex life, but I think that it's a pretty safe bet you and Mike don't have any floggers in the bedroom.
Yeah, that would be a safe bet.
So did you pick up anything that intrigued you that you would want to bring home, or like,
no,
exactly how does this work? If I mean, I understand the concept of, all jokes aside, like I understand the concept of not having sex but still finding some of that stuff exciting.
Well, okay, 50 Shades.
Right.
That's
totally
all I have to say. It's like, okay, you're
but
not
they
going
have
to
sex
tell me.
afterwards.
Yeah, well, I'm sure these people do too. You just can't do it in the dungeon. Do you know what I mean? Like you can go as a couple and watch and play and use all these things and see people suspended literally from the ceiling.
Okay. Oh my God.
Which is what she does. This woman, Angelique, she has a podcast called Living a Sex Positive Life. And
sorry, I have so many questions.
I know.
What does
I have so many things to say.
What does she suspend with?
Rope.
Oh, wow.
So there's this thing called roping, and her and her husband, John, nicest guy in the world. They are the two nicest people. That's the craziest part. They're not like some crazy freaks.
Yeah, of course.
They're not. They're just your typical couple. They've been married for 7 years.
Okay.
So
there's something to this.
Right. Like, well, I mean, you could say it's because it's open that they've been married for 7 years, because they're allowed to, have sex with other people.
Okay.
So they've been in this open marriage from day one. This is not a marriage that just turned into that because they needed to spice it up. They met in a kink community.
A kink
meaning
community.
A community, meaning not like where everyone who lives there. No, it's like a Facebook group type thing.
Okay.
So he likes to tie her up, and it is actually the most insane ties you've ever seen. Like when
you saw it?
Oh yeah, it's in the video.
Oh.
So he'll tie her up in ways that look like, like a French braid,
yeah,
or a fish whatever braid. It looks like that all going all down her legs.
No.
Yes, in rope.
And then he hangs her
from
a ceiling?
She could, for example, hang from the ceiling while she's all tied up and bound, and then use things like a feather or something to like tantalize her with.
Because I was wondering, what's the erotic part of that? Hanging from a ceiling? It just sounds painful.
Yeah, so that's where the sort of erotica comes in. And then, but also tying someone up in that nature, because it's so tight and you're hanging from a very high distance. This isn't like a little distance. She says it also creates intimacy and a lot of trust, which is very erotic for some people, where he's like, does this hurt? She was really tight. I mean, imagine like when you put on ice skates too tight, your ankles hurt type thing. So if you're tying an entire body up in rope, it has to be done perfectly, and you have to trust that person to not hurt you.
Right, of course. I've seen that kind of stuff in movies. I just have never known anyone personally who is into that. And I realize it's a really big community here in Orlando, but I was just so fascinated by seeing like all the different kinds of like whips and I didn't even know what half of the stuff was. I literally would walk in there and be like, what do you do with that? So you're telling me that people go, I want to say the first time's 35, and after that it's 25 to go in. They're only open on the weekends. And you can just sit and watch.
Correct. And he said, get this, he's the owner. I talked to the owner. He said their biggest customer base Are you ready? UCF students.
No kidding.
Yes, he said
Now,
that's their biggest clientele.
I wonder if that has to do with 50 Shades, because I feel like it really like brought it to the mainstream.
He said absolutely 50 Shades blew up the woodshed, which is like, I don't know if it's the only dungeon in town, but I know it's the biggest dungeon in town. And there's no drinking allowed. Because they're big, the whole community is big on consent for obvious reasons. Yeah. And if you're drinking, you can't give proper consent because you're drunk. And he actually, they don't like 50 Shades, actually. They hated it. Because they say it was like more of an abusive situation, that they would never do that stuff.
Yeah. So these people will go, there's no alcohol, you're sitting there and you're watching people tie each other up, flog, or whatever.
That's what you would get if you go in there. You can watch and not do anything, or you can participate. It's up to you.
Oh my gosh.
That's it. And when I got in, his name is Master Cecil.
Stop.
Yeah. The owner.
Yeah.
And that's how you refer to him. And
Master.
She was referring to him during the whole interview as Master Cecil. And it was just interesting. It opened my eyes to a whole new world that I'd never seen.
Okay. Mike comes home one day from work. You're exhausted. You're putting the kids to bed. You're getting ready for your weekend plans, and he says, Laura, I think I want to go to the dungeon. What do you say?
All right.
Really? You're into it.
I would go with Mike to watch one time. I don't see me ever getting into it. I don't see me ever wanting to participate, but I am so curious after this interview that I did, and especially once he said like UCF students come there all the time, I'm like, right? I mean, like, it has to be. We should.
I'm intrigued. I was thinking, how would that be really weird if like you and I went together?
I mean, for research,
Yeah, research. What if Mike said that he wanted an open marriage?
Absolutely not. Get the hell out of here. Here's your divorce papers.
Well, then you could have an open marriage.
I mean, I'm bipolar. Okay, if you don't feel like you're married to two people,
Laura's got a different woman coming home every night.
He'll be the first one to tell you that he doesn't know who he comes home to on a daily basis.
Oh, I don't know who I go to work with on a daily basis, so I can imagine it would be the same thing.
So he's like, that's what keeps it. He'll tell anyone that's what keeps our marriage fresh. Is that he does not know what Laura he's going to get on a daily basis, and it feels like he calls it strange. He's like, I feel like I'm with Strange every night.
Oh, wait, he has a name for like your other personality.
He calls it like the freshness of it. He calls it strange. Like when you go outside of the marriage, you would say, "Oh, I wanted some strange." Wow. He says he feels like he gets it. So why would he ever want an open marriage with someone like me?
I mean, maybe he doesn't want to do missionary for the rest of his life.
Oh well, he has his days where I'm like crazy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. What's the? I don't think.
We'll move on from there. Yeah. My second and third personalities,
they're real wild.
They're wild,
okay.
But the one I'll claim is not.
Very vanilla. Wow.
Yeah,
so
I'm
that's
telling
fascinating. I genuinely am intrigued, but I'm such a self-centered, selfish person that I could never see myself willingly let my mate go do those things, especially when you're talking about like no sex. You're just talking about the intimacy portion and the trust portion and all that. Like I'm way too selfish for that.
Okay, so it's weird because you can have. So here's what I learned. You can have an open marriage that is just for physical.
Okay.
So you're just allowed to sleep with someone else and that's it. No dating. You can have an open marriage where it's physical and you're dating. And once you start dating, that's polyamory. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, yeah. I've watched documentaries.
So, yeah, of course, documentary. Crazy. I saw it on MTV True Life.
Right.
But that's how I learned about polyamory. And that's where you have multiple girlfriends and boyfriends. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I'm not into that. Like
sister wives. So like we're going to
that would be like polygamy.
Oh.
Whereas polyamory is like girlfriends and boyfriends.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a one boy with two girlfriends.
Gotcha. Okay.
If you get married, that's polygamy.
Right.
It's a little bit more committed
serious
type thing. But yeah, there's like all different forms of it. You have BDSM. They said like they have friends who are into BDSM where there's like straight up dominant and a submissive guy, girl, married couple, and they do not go outside of there. And then they have BDSM couples that do. It's like you have every combination.
What is the craziest thing that they do at the woodshed? Like what's besides hanging from rope on the ceiling?
I mean, it can be pretty painful. And then they have different code words.
Oh.
So there's like a green, yellow, and red word, so green means keep going. And the yellow word, I forget what it is let's take it easy. And then like, of course, red is like stop.
Do they do those? Did she talk to you about doing, what is it called? Like wax play and fire play?
Fire play, she
Did you hear
does.
about that? Oh my God.
Yeah, she loves it, she says.
Now,
they were like showing me tools that they'll get at Walmart. Like it doesn't matter. You don't have to go to some special shop. She'll get a, what do you call it? That you roll the dough.
like a
roller.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll use that to spank.
Oh, to spank.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what do you do with that?
Yeah.
I just wonder.
There's a whole arsenal.
What is sexy about someone lighting you on fire?
Well, their thing was more like a cupping, like that. Like, I don't know if they're trying to light each other on fire, but I mean, they weren't that crazy. I know it sounds ridiculous, but they weren't that crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he said he'll go on dates. Like there's like someone that he'll go, and I was like, how do you guys schedule this? And she's a mother. So like, how do you schedule, like,
oh, no.
And he said like, it's just like any other schedule. And of course, when you watch this, I'm basically quoting him at this point, but he's like, okay, you're married to Mike, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, if Mike wants to go out with his friends, go grab a beer on a Friday night, what does he do? He asks you if we have plans that night, is it okay if I go? Same thing. He's like, I'll tell my wife, do we have plans Friday night? Because if not, I'm going on a date.
I'm having a revelation because I'm actually wondering if maybe this is an ideal scenario for me, because I really like to be alone, but I also like occasionally want someone to cuddle with. And I mean, maybe not do the suspension,
right.
But I mean,
maybe like being in, you don't have to suspend from the ceiling to be in an open relationship. You know what I mean?
No, I know.
There are plenty of people out there.
How ideal would it be? Like, on nights that, you want the company, you have somebody over there, and then other nights they can go off and I can be alone watching Netflix by myself.
I'm telling you, maybe this is it. Maybe you go on a BDSM website and find an open relationship scenario. No BDSM. Because like I said, there's a million combinations.
Yeah.
So you just have to be specific. I'm looking for an open relationship. No kink. And that's how you have to say no kink.
Oh, no kink.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that I was working a bar gig the other night and a man brought his mate into the bar on a leash?
I've seen that.
Have you
Downtown,
really?
So it must be the same couple.
It must be
a leather leash, right? And
yeah,
she's like in
and
leather.
it was like a chain too.
Yeah, so that would be dom submissive type scenario, and obviously they're not all like that, but he said that what's a big misconception is that the dominant one has the power and the submissive just does whatever, and he's like, that's not true. The sub in a true BDSM scenario has all the power because they can stop.
Say no, yeah.
And the minute they say no, it's over. So if she were to be like, no more leash, stop, I'm going home, like that's it. And so she actually holds the power. Right. If they were doing it correctly,
yeah.
And not being some crazy like kidnap scenario, which is what it looks like when they walk around downtown.
It really, I was like, I'm sorry. I just want to know how you get from getting ready for a night out to a leash being applied to your collar.
That's part of them getting ready.
I mean,
it was crazy. I've
fascinated.
seen this couple. That is so funny. I remember being like, oh, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
Like, this poor woman. But then
I mean, she's into it, to each their own.
I know.
I'm learning so much.
All right, I think our time here is done.
I'm okay with that. I feel exhausted.
I'm having PTSD over my neighbor.
Yeah, well, you should feel all sorts of shame and embarrassment.
I know. I'm just glad she's gone. Okay, so iTunes, iHeartRadio app. You can click follow on the iHeartRadio app or iTunes. Obviously, you can subscribe. We would love a good review on iTunes to help us. And we're just so happy that anyone's listening.
We're like moving up in the world, Laura. Like we've got a website. Yes. We've got subscribers, all 5 of them. No, I'm just kidding. No, we really appreciate it. And we're actually getting even more legit because we're doing our first official podcast interview, which I'm excited about. There is a woman named Anna Escamani, who is no big deal on the cover of Time magazine.
That's our next interview. That's exciting.
That's making us look real low on the totem pole.
So let's just hope that she doesn't know how lowbrow we are.
It's true. We're just faking this until we make it, man.
Yeah. Okay,
whatever
good.
that looks like.
Don't tell her.
No, nobody tell her. So yeah, stay tuned for that and give us a little review and subscribe.